Today's episode is brought to you by FabFitFun, a seasonal subscription box where you always get full-size beauty, fitness, fashion, and lifestyle products. And the winter box is out right now. So get your deal before they sell out with code NEWSWORTHY at fabfitfun.com. Welcome to the Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. Today, what happened when the Trumps, Obamas, and Clintons were all in the same room, and secret Facebook documents revealed. Plus, the best places to work and the hosts of the Golden Globes. Those stories and many more in less than 10 minutes. Then hang out after the news for Thing to Know Thursday. This week, we're talking about those annoying scam robocalls and what's being done to stop them. I'm Erica Mandy. Today is Thursday, December 6th. You ready? Let's do this. More events today, this time in Texas for former President George H.W. Bush. His final resting place will be on the grounds of his presidential library on the Texas A&M campus. He'll be near his wife, Barbara, and their daughter, Robin, who died at the age of 3. And for the first time ever, a presidential son eulogized a presidential father. Bush's son, George W. Bush, choked back tears as he spoke to the crowd of family, friends, and thousands of current and former politicians and world leaders. He said his father, the 41st president, was a devoted public servant with a sense of humor and love for his family. Also at the service, another rare occasion. 5 living presidents and first ladies were all in the same room. And yes, that includes a seemingly awkward moment when President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump arrived. The Trumps and the Obamas did briefly shake hands. The Clintons and the Trumps, though, did not. But the service and everyone there pretty much stayed focused on Bush's legacy. He was 94. Well, this story is still developing, but here's what we know so far as of early this morning. Reuters reports a still unexplained mishap off the coast of Japan has left 6 U.S. Marines missing. Japanese officials say so far 1 of the 7 Marines has been rescued. It involved 2 U.S. Marine Corps aircraft that may have collided in the air. More details expected today. USA Gymnastics filed for bankruptcy as it fights to survive. The AP reports the organization is working to reach settlements in dozens of lawsuits over sex abuse. Remember, hundreds of gymnasts blame the organization for failing to supervise and then stop the team doctor, Larry Nassar. Nassar is in prison for molesting athletes. USA Gymnastics officials say the bankruptcy will not impact how much money survivors could get, but it is the latest attempt for the organization to just keep going. Because last month, the U.S. Olympic Committee took the first steps to strip USA Gymnastics of its national recognition. To be continued. Some secret documents from Facebook have now been released. The UK Parliament made them public, even though they're actually under seal in the U.S. The papers are part of a lawsuit in California. So what do they show? Well, Business Insider reports they include some internal emails from CEO Mark Zuckerberg. And they show how Facebook gave some companies special access to users' friends' data, while denying that kind of access to its competitors, like certain Twitter apps. It also says Facebook made it tough for users to understand changes that allowed the company to collect calls and texts on Android phones. Facebook says it never sold people's data and called the docs, quote, misleading without additional context. It's the second largest smartphone maker in the world and one of the world's largest telecom equipment manufacturers. But one of its executives was just arrested. The Wall Street Journal reports Canada arrested the chief financial officer of China's Huawei Technologies, and it was on behalf of the U.S. The CFO is accused of violating U.S. trade sanctions against Iran, and she'll likely be sent to the U.S. to appear in court. This is not the first time the U.S. government has said the Chinese company is a national security threat. Some have even said the equipment could be used to spy on Americans. A Huawei spokesman, though, said they're not aware of any wrongdoing. Experts told the Journal there will be a lot of pressure for China to get her back. Heads up, there's been another recall on raw beef. It's actually expanding the one we talked about back in October. Now the recall includes more than 12 million pounds of ground beef that could contain salmonella. It's all from an Arizona meat producer, but may have been sold under the names Showcase, Cedar Farms, Kroger Brands, and more. And the recalled beef was packaged from July to September of this year. A couple hundred people have already gotten sick. Of course, there are more details in today's show notes about the meats recalled. All right, some other things people may be talking about today. What are the best places to work? The website Glassdoor just came out with a list of best companies to work for as we head into the year 2019. The top 10 include Southwest Airlines, Google, LinkedIn, and even In-N-Out Burger. Number 1, Bain & Company. It's a management consulting company. The Midwest is the best, at least for drivers. That's what a new report found. The 2018 Bankrate Best States for Drivers study found North Dakota, Iowa, and then Ohio are the top 3 states for drivers. The worst state? You guessed it, California. The study looked at 7 areas, including driver cost, safety, commute time, gas prices, and more. Justin Timberlake just canceled another show. He has to rest his voice, doctor's orders. He says his vocal cords are severely bruised. JT was supposed to play in Oakland last night, but rescheduled again. So far, Timberlake has postponed 8 shows in a row on his Man of the Woods tour, and Variety says he'll likely reschedule more. But he told his fans he'll make it up to them. And the Golden Globes hosting gig goes to Andy Samberg and Sandra Oh. The duo will host the 76th annual Golden Globes on January 6th in Los Angeles. Passing the torch is Seth Meyers. He hosted last year's Globes. Samberg is a 2-time Golden Globe winner. Oh won back in 2016 for her role on Grey's Anatomy. And she recently made history as the first Asian woman nominated for an Emmy for lead actress. Deadline reports this is only the 2nd time in Golden Globes history that the award show has been hosted by a duo. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were the first. And that's it for the main news today, but it's now time for Thing to Know Thursday, where a different expert explains a different thing to know every Thursday after the news. This week, we're talking about those scam robocalls. You know, when your cell phone rings and it's just some automated message trying to scam you. You may remember a recent study found half of all mobile calls could be scams by next year. That is, if nothing is done about it. So we're talking about what is happening to fight these types of calls and what you can do yourself. My guest today is Maureen Mahoney with the Consumer Union, which is the advocacy division of Consumer Reports. She deals with all things consumer privacy. But first, a quick break to thank today's sponsor, The Neat Company. If you have your own business, a side hustle, or just want to better organize all of your expenses and finances, then this is for you. Neat lets you upload your receipts, invoices, and other documents, and then uses its unique ID2 technology to take it from there. It classifies the docs for you and even fills out the key data fields so you don't waste your time copying everything over. Instead, you can be more productive on the things that matter. I love that you can use your camera on your phone to upload receipts and other documents, or just email it or upload it directly, whatever works for you. You can even go back and keyword search all of your documents to find what you need quickly. So go ahead and try it out. The Neat Company is offering the Newsworthy listeners a free 30-day trial at neat.com/newsworthy. It's a great time before the new year. Again, take advantage of a 30-day free trial. Go to neat.com/newsworthy. Now here's my conversation about scam calls with Maureen Mahoney. Maureen, thank you so much for coming on the Newsworthy.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start things off with the current state of these scam robocalls. A recent report found that nearly half of all mobile calls by next year will be scams, which sounds insane. So why and how is this happening?
Yeah, well, first of all, robocalls are out of control. So more certainly needs to be done to address the problem. And there are a couple of reasons why there are these increases in robocalls. Many of them are from scammers originating overseas. They're intending to break the law, so there's no incentive for them to comply with it. And they're using technology in order to hide their identities, in order to trick consumers into picking up the phone.
You mentioned the technology. Let's talk a little bit about that, because scammers use technology to make it look like the calls coming in are local. How do they do that? How does that work?
With internet-based calling, it's easy to pretend that you're somebody else. In the same way that it's easy to pretend to be someone else online, you can input a different number to show up on the caller ID. Also, there are services and apps that people can use to hide their identity. There are legitimate reasons to spoof your phone number. And for privacy reasons, some people may want to block their phone number from appearing on the caller ID, but it's illegal to spoof with the intention of committing fraud. And obviously, scammers are completely ignoring the law.
And that's the technology that the FCC recently said they want to go after and really put it on the wireless carriers like AT&T and Sprint to come up with a way to block people from doing that. What is the FCC requesting of the wireless carriers, and do you think that it will work?
Well, first of all, some phone companies already offer consumers free tools to identify and block unwanted robocalls, such as AT&T and T-Mobile. So I do urge consumers to ask their phone companies what options are available to them now to address the robocall problem. However, because so many of these scammers are spoofing caller ID, it's easy to kind of slip through some of these blocks. So for several years now, there are these standards that have been in development. It's called Shake and Stir, and it's designed to address the call spoofing problem. So it would make it so that when you're originating a phone call, you can confirm that the caller ID information is valid, and that validation would be transferred all along the call path to the consumer. And ideally, the consumer would then be able to better address the call, either block it or let it go to voicemail. Or ideally, there would be the ability to automatically screen out all of those calls that fail to verify their caller ID information.
So just to be clear, what's available to us right now versus what you expect to be coming out pretty soon?
So, right now, there are some advanced technologies out there that can use algorithms, look at call patterns to identify and block unwanted robocalls. But this is not perfect because it's easy for those spoofed calls to kind of slip through some of those tools. So this technology would really increase the confidence for consumers in blocking calls and also for phone companies to block calls. So it's possible that phone companies, may explore automatically screening out all calls that fail to verify their caller ID information. So you'd have a much more comprehensive way to address the problem.
If the wireless carriers don't step up to this or the tech isn't working quite as we expect it, what do you think that the FCC or government regulators will do to try to fix this problem? Because the FCC said it's the number one complaint that they get are these scam robocalls.
Right. So we've been calling on the FCC for a long time to require the phone companies to implement this technology. And back in 2015, the chairman of the FCC at the time called on the phone companies to take action, offer free call blocking tools to move forward on this caller ID authentication, which is Shake and Stir. And that was several years ago. So the phone companies have been dragging their feet. And that's why I think it's important for the FCC to require the phone companies to comply. This technology will be most effective if all of the phone companies are participating in it because of the interconnected nature of the phone system. So it's important for the FCC to take action now, technologically, and also to ensure that the laws that protect consumers from robocalls remain strong.
Do you expect that report that we talked about, that nearly half of all mobile calls will be scams by next year, do you expect that to come true, or do you think that we will ultimately get ahead of this?
Well, the problem is getting worse and worse. Consumers continue to complain to us about these unwanted robocalls. Because there's so many incentives for scammers to robocall consumers, it's so cheap and easy for them to send robocalls. And even if only one consumer falls victim to the scam, that's pure profit for them. So there's certainly incentives for robocallers to keep calling. So I do expect that unless the FCC takes action, the problem will continue to get worse.
And finally, what should consumers do when they see maybe it's a local call coming in that you probably think is a scam call? How should we be responding to these calls?
Well, first of all, I would call your phone company and ask them what free tools are already available to opt into to identify and block unwanted robocalls. AT&T and T-Mobile offer these free solutions, and many of the wireless carriers are now offering solutions as well, although you may have to pay for them. If you do see a call coming in that you don't recognize, even if it's from your local area code, I would just let it go to voicemail. If you have time, I would complain to the federal authorities, the FCC and the Federal Trade Commission, to let them know that this is a problem and to urge them to take action.
And remember, you can read more about this topic, our guest, and all the stories in today's episode in today's show notes. Just go to thenewsworthy.com, click episodes, and then look for today's date. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. The Newsworthy is ready for you by 4 in the morning every weekday. We will chat again tomorrow. Have a great day. One more thing, don't forget to grab your FabFitFun winter box. You get super high quality, full-size products worth more than $200 in every box. The winter box has a beautiful soft knit throw, a gorgeous eyeshadow palette, a jewelry organizer for travel, and so much more. And you'll get $10 off paying just $39.99 when you use the code Newsworthy at fabfitfun.com.